Good afternoon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me start by giving a big thank you to the residents and voters of Washington, D.C., who went out to the polls in record numbers to make their voices heard. I am so proud that they were proud of the wave of voting all across our nation that sends a big message that every vote counts and that the things that Americans want and D.C. residents want reflecting our values were heard at the polls. Being mayor of Washington, D.C. Has been the great pleasure and honor of my life. And I was just extremely proud to have been elected for a second time as mayor of my hometown. So I want to congratulate my fellow elected leaders on their victories as well. I think there was a clean sweep for incumbents who work out of this building, which I think is also a vote of confidence from the voters of the District of Columbia for the direction that we are moving in as a city. I certainly look forward to working together over the next few years to take our city even further. We will continue our fight to end homelessness. We will continue to do more to close the achievement gap in our schools. We will focus very carefully on how we remove illegal guns from our streets and make our neighborhoods safer. And we will focus on how we can truly make Washington, D.C., with our vast prosperity, a city that works for all Washingtonians. On this day, I just recalled the last time I was elected, I had a press conference right after the election and right after the primary. So I continued the tradition today to say a few things about what you can expect in the days between now and when I'm sworn in for the second time on January the 2nd. I have impaneled a second-term working group within the executive office of the mayor. And the second-term working group's charge is to recommend people, policies, and processes that will help us achieve our vision for the city over the next 4 years. You have standing with me our co-chairs of that group. You will recall during my transition, we had volunteers from the community. This time we have volunteers from our government. This team is Lindsley Parker, my Deputy Chief of Staff, Jenny Reed, the Director of the Office of Budget and Performance, and Wayne Turnage, who is the Director of the Healthcare Finance Agency and Interim Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. So I want to thank each of them and their colleagues who have joined them on this group to focus on people and policies and our vision for the next 4 years. And in addition, we will be working with a consultant to help us review organizational structure and make recommendations for changes in the next 4 years. Next week, I will also announce a website and schedule of engagement events. Our goal is to continue to hear from Washingtonians from all 8 wards, to hear what Washington, living in our city, means to them and what they see for our future. Together, our city has achieved much, but we know there's more work to be done. So once again, my heartfelt thanks to the residents of all 8 wards. And I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, Sam.
So, Mayor, in one case, you supported a candidate who did not win. Can you talk about that situation where you basically opposed Alyssa Silverman? She ultimately prevailed, and the candidate you did support lost. You mentioned it briefly last night, but what does that mean going forward?
Well, I supported 2 candidates in the at-large race, and I want to congratulate Councilmember Anita Bonds on her tremendous victory yesterday. And I supported Dion Reeder in the set-aside seat, the independent or the non-majority seat. And I think Dion's experience in her approach to governing and her approach to the city was the best fit for that seat. But I certainly congratulate Alyssa in her victory. She won a hard campaign, and we look forward to working together over the next 4 years. Yes, sir.
Mayor Bowser, can you talk more about your plans for your relationship with the council in in the second term? So this race was an opportunity for you to remove a council member who you thought wasn't serving the best interests of the District of Columbia. What kind of message does it send about your clout and your influence in city politics that one of your endorsed candidates didn't win?
Well, a number of endorsed candidates didn't win last night, but I'm grateful that I was on the ballot and I did win by very significant numbers. And I appreciate the fact that we went into a primary very strong and we went into a general very strong. When we go across the city, people are giving us a thumbs up for the work that we do. And when you've been making tough decisions as long as I have, having over 78% of the voters support you. Is a big thing, and so I think that the voters looked at candidates. We had an election where every incumbent won, including Councilmember Silverman, and we're gonna move forward with everybody the voter sent us to work with.
Are you going to do anything different to improve your relationship with the council?
I think I have a great relationship with the council.
There were several instances in your first term where the council approved policies that you were opposed to, like paid family leave and the publicly financed elections. Is there anything you want to do differently in the second?
Well, I have to correct you. I support the publicly financed elections. You may recall that in my last budget, I actually funded it over $15 million worth.
So when it was going through, you were opposed to it?
I'm sorry?
When it was going through, your administration was expressing opposition to that policy.
And when it needed to get funded, my administration funded it.
Mark.
Can you tell us about your phone call with Councilmember Silverman this morning?
I didn't get through to her.
She talked on Kojo about getting a call from you this morning, so.
Well, she didn't answer, but I did make it.
How do you plan on moving that relationship forward between you and Councilmember Silverman, given that you opposed her, that you supported her opposition?
Well, these are elections, Mark, and so I think that in elections there are winners and losers, and so when you go into it, certainly I supported and I believe strongly and principally that I supported the person who was better for the job. And people ask me all the time what I think about these things. They say, Mayor, we support you. You're going into another 4 years. What do you need? And my answer was simple. I need partners that share our vision for how we move the city forward. And so my approach to all the members of the council is the same. I have an open door. We talk about policies, and really, there's not a lot of disagreement between the things that we believe and what the council believes. And if I look over the course of 4 years, I dare say that over, I won't give it a number, but the vast majority of things that we need to get done, we get done with the council. The vast majority of the policies that I move forward in my budgets get approved. So when there are differences, you can, just as we heard my friend from the Post say, he ticked off 2 out of 4 years of policy discussions. That's not a lot.
Can I ask you about, you went around the city defending your job, your record as mayor and wanting to be reelected. Do you now believe the council's going to take this up now, that you deserve a pay raise, that you deserve a $20,000 a year pay raise?
Well, as I mentioned previously, this was an initiative of the council, and I'll take no position on it. Yep.
We spoke to various residents in the Columbia Heights area, and they are very supportive of your election. I wanted to ask you about, in the next 4 years, is there anything that you're doing particular to help the immigrant community in the district?
Well, of course, we have spent a lot of time over the last 2 years, especially really defending our DC values against attacks from the Trump administration. We have made unprecedented investments in what we call immigration justice grants, and those grants are aimed at working with trusted partners in the community that we've worked with before, that our immigrant community trusts as well, so that people can go to them to know their rights, to ask questions, and to get legal advice. I think we put over $1 million in that program last year, and we're continuing to monitor it to make sure that people know where they can go to get help. I also thought it was very important for me to take a trip to El Salvador over the summer to demonstrate. Our largest immigrant population in the district are from El Salvador. And TPS has created, and the uncertainty with TPS and what's going to happen next year has created a great amount of anxiety, fear, and uncertainty. So I wanted us to establish clearer and stronger bonds with El Salvador, particularly with the mayor of San Salvador, and the residents and mayor of Intapuca, which a great number of our residents hail from. And we're going to continue that relationship. In fact, Mayor Mason called me last night to congratulate me on a second term so that we can continue that relationship. Yes.
So last night was more than just about the elections on a local level. We also saw that the House is going to change hands to Democrats. I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about how your administration is preparing for that, in particular as it relates to legalized marijuana. It looks like the Harris Amendment may be, or the Harris Rider may be removed, as well as DC may have the ability to fund abortions for low-income women again. Is that a priority of your administration?
We will prepare a tax and regulate scheme to present to the council in the beginning of the year. We will also do everything that we can to make sure women have full access to reproductive health care in the District of Columbia, women of all incomes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what that tax and regulate scheme?
No, I can't. I said we're going to work on it.
You're talking about?
Yep.
So for legalized marijuana, you're going to take another run at trying to have a way for people to buy.
We believe, and I've always believed, and I've said this since 71 passed, that we have an untenable situation in the district that I believe makes us unsafe. So we have the ability to possess marijuana, but no legal way to buy marijuana. So as long as we have the ability to possess marijuana, which is our law, we also need the ability to procure marijuana legally, which we don't have now.
Mayor, last night you said some things are accomplished in 4 years and then some things take 8 years. Should I interpret that to mean you are looking for a third term?
No, you should interpret it to say I'm on my way to 8 years in office, and we're going to accomplish much more. I'll be sworn in on January the 2nd.
So that means you're looking at a third term.
No, that means I'm going to start my second term on January the 2nd, and I'm going to work really hard for the residents of the District of Columbia.
On your way to 8 years in office, that's why I was just...
Well, I will be. Starting January, I'll be on my way to 8 years in office.
Oh, okay. Final question from the audience. Could you tell us what you thought your most significant accomplishment was in your first 4 years?
Well, there are many, but I will tell you, I talked a little bit about one that we're very proud of, and that's closing DC General. There was, and you may not remember this, but when I ran the last time, there was consensus, near universal agreement around the city that DC General was too big, too isolated, and we had failed children in that facility. And we pursued it with laser focus so that we would be able to close that facility and put families who are experiencing emergencies in a better situation. I got to tell you, I'm also proud of the commitment I made when I ran the last time to double our investments and really, really focus on how we get more jobs and investment in Ward 8 communities. And we've done that. We have one of the largest economic development investments in Congress Heights that's producing jobs. It will produce housing opportunities. And we have seen unemployment go down. When I ran the last time, I was running out of Ward 4, and there was a lot of skepticism about how much we would be able to accomplish and if we would show up in Ward 8. And I promised then that they would never be able to say about me, I only showed up during election season. because we've been there and we have created jobs, and more residents east of the river are working. And so we're really focused, and I've charged this team with, if putting all else aside, what would it take to really have these impactful changes in jobs and education and opportunity for Washingtonians who need it the most? And how can we marshal our resources around the government to do that?
But Mayor, what has gone up since you did this homicide rate? We're looking at a significant.
This year, Sam. So we had, let me, yeah, and this is very concerning, and you heard me mention my concern about illegal guns, easy access to them, and making sure we're adequately addressing the people who have demonstrated that they will use guns time and time again. So we have focused quite a lot on opportunity in our administration. We expanded the Marion Barry Youth Program, for example, so it is giving people up to age 24 the opportunity to get a job and get job experience when they wouldn't really be able to do that on their own. We were at lunch yesterday, and I was talking to somebody who was concerned about their 23-year-old daughter. I asked her a few questions. I said, well, what does she like to do? She's going to college and she's studying criminal justice. Well, why is she doing that? Well, she likes law enforcement. And I said, well, why isn't she in our cadet program? She's a DC resident. She got a clean record. Let's get her in the cadet program, because we expanded it to cover young people up to age 24. So they can get in our program, go to UDC, we'll pay for it, get 60 credits, and then join our police academy. And so those are some of the programs that we have put in place to give people opportunities to be productive citizens. Now, on the other side of that, we know there are pockets in some cases, and we know what they are, where we still have intense gun violence. I think there was some coverage in a story I read today about an ongoing battle between, two neighborhoods where really two people have been fighting and trying to shoot each other since the summer. And so we have also instituted programs around that. The council passed a bill called the NEAR Act, which people ask us about all the time. Kevin will tell you how many of all of the principles that we put in place and what's left to be done with the NEAR Act. But one very important thing that's happened is we created the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. I get the acronyms wrong. But in that office, they focus on people like we're mentioning in that story that we know will probably shoot somebody without intervention. And these are folks who need serious services. And we put them in a cohort where we're giving them in intense social services. It's slow. And you have to have a small number of people to work with for it to be effective. But as we do that, and as we're able to grow that and intervene with people who we know have a propensity to be involved in violence, we think we can stop it. Yes, hi, Janetta.
Hi. Madam Mayor, can you talk a little bit about this working group?
Yes.
Because it suggests to me that there may be areas where you're not quite satisfied with the performance, and you want to up it, or what is it? What is it that you're creating this, and what do you hope will happen?
Well, the reason we're creating it is because we are going into a fresh 4 years, and we regard that as an opportunity to do things better, or to do things faster, or to do things bigger. And this working group is different than the last one. You may recall when I was transitioning to become mayor, I had a 300-person group. I had 6 or 7 co-chairs, and we met between November 4th and January 2nd to come up with our transition plan. Well, we don't need a transition plan this time, but we do, and we have called on our members of our team to come up with the big ideas, to think about processes that could be more efficient, or ideas that we haven't tried that need additional resources or additional energy, and move forward that way. We will involve the public, as I mentioned. We will create a website where people can interact with the team, but we will also have some engagement opportunities out in the city.
what processes and policies do you see that you think need to be tweaked, that you're not quite satisfied with the response or the results of?
Well, I don't want to get
Obviously,
ahead of the
You
team.
must have some marching orders for them. You didn't just say, y'all go do it, or did you?
Well, I did say y'all go give me some fresh ideas. This is what I tell everybody. Do you think, I sometimes do this to people. And that means let's knock out the fresh ideas. We haven't tried everything. We haven't thought of everything. And we would be entirely arrogant if we thought we had every new idea. And so that's why, and this group is not just agency directors. There's some agency directors who will participate, but I was intentional in saying we want some employees from different levels of the government to have an opportunity to shape the things that we will focus on in the next 4 years.
One more question from me. You mentioned a consultant who will help you with reshaping the organization. I'm taking you mean the entire organization, not just your office. So what is it in the organization that you're wanting to tweak? Is there anything you're wanting to tweak? You think it's too big, you want to save money? What are you looking for?
Well, we're looking for how we can better deliver for the residents of the district. And so we would engage someone who's worked with transitions for states, for cities, look at our org chart, look at how we do business, and make some recommendations. Yes.
Not many Washington mayors have been able to serve multiple terms. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be known for when people talk about you years from now?
You and Sam are rushing this conversation. And I always leave it to those of you out there to talk about our legacy. But one thing I mentioned last night that I think is very important, I think we'll have the opportunity to do that, is to really change the trajectory of our African American students and kids who don't have anybody to fight for them. And we have too many kids who don't either have a family, or whose family doesn't know how to engage all the vast resources of the city to make their lives better. And so at the end of the day, I think everybody wants to have a city that's prosperous. Nobody wants to have a city that leaves these young kids behind, leaves senior citizens behind who can't continue to keep up with rent payments, prices young families out because they can't afford child care. So those are the things that we can continue to work on. I wanted people to say about Bowser that she really expanded opportunity and prosperity so that more Washingtonians can participate in that prosperity. Yes.
So you mentioned the NEAR Act as one example of how you're combating violence and homicides in the district. I know that your administration is also facing a lawsuit over the implementation of the NEAR Act.
Mm-hmm. We look forward to defending it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And one more question on a different topic is I talked quite a bit about wanting to bring football back to DC as part of the sports capital. Any plans specifically about what a stadium might look like in DC and whether you want to move forward with that in your next term?
Well, I think you are probably familiar with the Events DC presentations, and our strategy over the past 4 years has been to regain more control over federal land in the district. That has included Franklin Park, which hopefully will get done before the end of this year. Thank you. And it has included other federal lands like Walter Reed, federal transportation facilities like the Memorial Bridge, but it also includes RFK. So what's important to us about RFK is that it's no longer just a sea of parking, but that it comes into productive use and allows the district to take advantage of of that land, but also the proximity to the river. What Events DC has produced is a set of drawings that includes an NFL stadium and one that doesn't. We're coming up on a point in time where we're going to move forward, because we're not going to leave that stadium there sitting idle for too long, because we know that's not good for the community. What people can expect to see in the coming weeks, however, is our early commitment that Events DC made, and with my support, is a community serving amenity of soccer fields. And I think those are, if they're not underway, they'll be underway shortly and delivered to the community.
Mayor Bowser, can you tell us how close you are to getting a new chancellor, naming the chancellor for DC Public Schools?
I hope to be able to talk to the community very soon. Our committee, our Schools Advisory Committee, which I am paneled, believe during the summer, just issued a report to me that outlines qualities and questions. And this is not a decision I will rush, however, and as soon as we have the right candidate, I'll share it.
Have you started actually talking to candidates yourself? Have you gotten down that?
We're advanced in in kind of talking to people who are interested in the position.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. How are you? Ready?
Oh, okay, your name is?
Susanna.
Oh, okay.